Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Happy Labor Day. If you're in a country that celebrates that, I'm pretty sure that's most Western countries. If not, hope you guys are having a good Monday. I'm here to show off. Actually, is that just the United States because like the labor's union and that's what made it all happen? Whatever. We're not here for a history lesson. We're here to show off a fun build. This is viewer requested. This is from the viewer Void JP6NC. Uh, thank you for suggesting this. Void. I'm just gonna call you Void if that's cool. I am sorry I did not get this out sooner, but I still think it's within an acceptable time frame. There was a lot of testing involved with this build, a lot of really weird things I learned along the way, and also kind of learning more how his first ability works. Not that that is as crucial for this kit, because we're showing off something very unique with this build. Not too unique. I mean, there's builds out there that are going to use Roar to do what we're going to do here, but I think it's a little bit more exciting because keeping up our energy is really nice with this build. Okay, let's talk about Revenant's kit. And we're also going to talk about our helmet specifically in this kit. If you want a full breakdown on Revenant, I suggest watching another video. I'm going to talk about his kit and how it's working in this build, and then I'm going to show the build, discuss Archon Shards, and weapon synergies and everything like that. Okay, so Revenant's first ability, Mind Control. These enemies are going to spread it when they attack each other. When they die, they are going to spread it even more. They're going to create like a well out of the ground that's going to shoot off little projectiles, kind of similar to Breach Surge, and that is going to spread the Thrall status effect. The enemies are going to like force aggro to these guys because it's like the highest form of aggro in the game, so you don't even really need to worry about your survivability if you have this up. But as you guys know about Revenant, here you go. Here's the well that it creates, and that's going to send off projectiles at home. And if you're not at a max amount of thralls, it is going to spread more thralls. Let's talk. Oh, duration is something that you do have to keep in mind. Looks like they're going to shoot us now. We're going to talk about his second ability now. This is the ability that everybody plays Revenant for. I'm so sorry, guys. This is the ability that everybody plays Revenant for. Alright, let me pull my mic a little bit closer too. This is going to be literal invulnerability for a certain amount of hits, and every enemy that hits you is going to go limp for, with this build, 7 seconds. This is incredibly strong. We have on this build 17 free hits. So you're going to be casting this when you have Thrall up. On average, I'd say every minute. It's pretty easy to keep up. But let's get on to the unique part about this build and the helmet of choice. We are using Breach Surge. Breach Surge, I thought was a pretty interesting choice because I'm like, what's a way we can boost damage, but also use something kind of unique at the same time and also create some interesting synergies with it. Breach Surge is a form of CC. It's going to pair well with your 1 because it's just so much CC. And your 2 because that's also CC. So you got like triple CC. And it's also going to pair well with our 4th, and we're going to get to that here in a second. But let's show off Breach Surge. Let's go ahead and turn on these enemies real quick. Walk over here. Press my 3. There's going to be a blind that lasts on this build 20 seconds. So it's extremely long. Extremely long. Now, if I shoot these enemies, they're going to shoot off projectiles that are going to send off amplified damage. And if you've ever used this ability on Wisp, you probably know, like, you could just randomly shoot sometimes and just see, like, the most absurd numbers. Because these can keep on chaining, and it's just really insane. But actually, the main reason why we're using this ability, is going to be a way to increase your killing power with your 4th, and for radiation statuses. Might be able to see where this is going now. So, go ahead and spawn in a new fresh group. And let's kind of show off everything all together at once. So, okay. Gonna try that again. All right, we're gonna jump in, press our 2. We're gonna press our 1. We're gonna go ahead and press our 3. And then we're gonna press our 4. As you guys can see, there's so many sparks being spread across, doing a bunch of radiation statuses and quite a bit of damage. It's not incredible, but it's not bad. And that's the important thing with this build. And in practice, this is doing a lot more. Like in game, this feels really incredible. As you guys can see against this corrupt heavy gunner, it's a little rough. Roar is going to be just generally better, but let's get on to the interesting part, which is the build and what makes using Breach Surge on this build in particular quite interesting, in my opinion. But first, let's talk about the Archon Shards, because I think that's crucial before we move on to the build, because that is going to change the way that I would mod this if you do not have these shards. Okay, first thing I want to say, these green shards can be replaced by orange shards and it will be more effective. Orange shards have the exact same effect. Like they can do the same thing, except it will happen on radiation status. That is going to be spread more because the way that how do you say it? Dance Macabre? I think that's how you would say it. Dance Macabre, it will give statuses based off of what the enemy's HP type is. So, against Corpus enemies, shielded enemies, magnetic procs. Now, magnetic means we're not going to be able to take it. Okay, that's crazy, guys. Sorry. Um, magnetic status effects means we're not going to be able to take advantage of these shards. The corrosive procs are only going to happen against armored enemies, so I would absolutely replace these to ability damage on enemies affected by radiation status, because it's really easy to spread radiation status with Breach Surge. And with our weapon, we're going to talk about that too here in a second. On this build, we are using a 37.5 casting speed shard. This is a Tauforged yellow. And we are using a Tauforged amber shard for energy orb effectiveness. Some things to talk about here. If you want this build to be more practical, I would take off one of the green or orange shards, whatever you're going to end up with, and I would use another yellow shard for energy orb effectiveness. I know that is literally crazy, guys, but Revenant's 4 uses a lot of energy, and if you want to be able to use this in pretty much any game mode, infinitely sustaining your 4, that's probably going to be a good idea. By the way, that's the whole theme of this build, infinitely staying in your 4, other than going out of it to reset your 2, but not abandoning the option of just not being in your 4, because Breach Surge is a nice DPS increase, and so is our Enthrall with an augment. We're going to get to that. So maybe another energy orb effectiveness shard if you guys want to, maybe another casting speed shard if this is not enough for you, or tweak around the build however you want to. Let's get on to the build and what I settled on. Okay. Here you can see we have modded a lot of strength and relatively low duration for Revenant. That is because we had to mod a bunch of efficiency. But because we're also modding a bunch of strength, it means it's using a lot of mod slots. We have Blind Rage and Fleeting Expertise, so this is to counteract this. We have Streamline as well to get more efficiency. We're at 135 here. Range is actually not that important on this build, as this default radius is actually pretty good. I would recommend maybe adding more range if you're on a little bit of a closer quarters tile set and you want to utilize the 4 only. With Breach Surge, you could take off Thrall Pact, and we'll get to that here in a second. But yeah, this is the build that worked best for me. A lot of it is like kind of mods for fixing what other mods do that give like crazy high stats. So it's like kind of weird the stats that we're ending up with, and it's probably not like a stat spread that you've seen before. But this is the build that worked best for me. Okay, let's move on to the aura. For the aura, we have corrosive projection. This is specifically just for boosting our DPS and for whenever we have like max corrosive procs. We're going to be stripping a bunch of armor, and this is just nice to have. On this build, we have Cunning Drift. If you would like to use Speed Drift, actually, I think that would also be really good in this slot. Same with Preparation. Starting with max energy and allowing yourself to get into your 4 immediately and spam your 3. Get a full ability cycle. That's a great option. Let's talk about why that's a great option and why we're not using Prime Sure-Footed on this build. When you're in your 2, you have complete knockdown immunity and status immunity, so there's no reason to have Prime Sure-Footed on this build. You are missing out on just boosting your stats more, boosting your parkour speed, a little bit more range. And on this build specifically, and for me, I'm using a little bit more range just to help out my 3 a little bit, my 2 a little bit, or sorry, my 1 a little bit, and I guess the 4, like, kinda. The way that the 4 works is it's just going to make your beams thicker with more range, so you don't need more range, but you can. Uh, Running just a little bit above neutral is what's worked the best for me, especially with Breach Surge, because 20 meters range is fine. Because you're gonna be really in it when you're fighting. You guys will see. It's pretty funny. Um, yeah. So preparation's an option if you want to get a full ability cycle off at the beginning. Uh, Weirdly, speed drift might be a great option for the extra movement speed and casting speed. That is because our movement speed in our 4 without the movement stat stick that we're using is going to be extremely slow. So if you want to use speed drift, go for it. Extra casting speed is obviously helpful as well. These are the top 2 mods, and that's why I'm using them. Let's move on to the rest of the build. We are using Mesmer Shield. This is literally just being a support for your team. Uh, this is amazing. This is so nice. This is just going to give your teammates 5 charges of Mesmer Skin every single time you pop the ability, as long as they're in affinity range. Like that's great. That is like bringing a resource that Revenant has to your team, or an ability that Revenant has to his team, and making him more of a team-based frame, when kind of before he was just really selfish. So I would definitely recommend using this. You don't have to, especially if you like playing alone mainly. There's not really going to be a reason to bring this at all. But like, you are helping your teammates so much. Dude, if you have a Revenant on your team who's good at keeping this buff up, and your teammates are good at standing near you, your teammates don't need to build any type of survivability on their kit at all. At all. Because they can just use these. Um, it's amazing. Then we're going to move on to Streamline for ability efficiency. That's obviously because the 4th. This is a drain ability, and this ramps up fast. In the boosted mode, it's going to be using 13.68 extra, and in the regular mode, it's going to be using 16.25. The boosted mode is going to be whenever you're holding mouse 1. Here's the regular mode, boosted mode. You can tell the difference. Beams get a little bit thicker and everything. And we're going to be using the boosted mode mainly. So that's why we are building so much efficiency on this build and trying to stay near neutral duration. If you guys find a better way of modding this, do let me know. It's just hard because we are using 2 augments on this build, and energy max is really important, and the shards that we're using help out a lot. This is just a really unique build, so this is what I ended up with, but I'd love to hear what you guys would change. So Streamline, Prime Flow for energy max, that's just obvious. I mean, that's going to be really nice on an ability that is draining stupid amounts of energy. We are using Thrall Pact. Thrall Pact is another augment, but this one is just incredible. I love this. So this is giving us 60% damage per thralled enemy. Let's go ahead and show how much you can get in practice. Look up top right. It's not going to apply both of those. It's going to apply only one of those, the bug. So we're at a 425% damage serration bonus on our primary weapons. That's just nice to have. If you don't want to use the 4 with this build, the whole thing is like you don't have to. This is supposed to be like a flexible build. Like you can be in your 4, you can be not in your 4, but this is supposed to give you the option to kill with your 4 and be very comfortable when you're in it. And this is what I found to be really nice to just boost my DPS and have something if I'm not in my 4. I mean, Revenant already has a lot with just survivability, Breach Surge adding onto the damage capabilities, and Thrall Pact as well with the first ability. So really nice. Umbral Intensify over Precision Intensify, as it is going to boost our damage with this, going to boost our damage multiplier and our status chance with this, going to boost our number of charges with this, and it's going to boost the amount of damage per enemy enthralled with this as well, and the damage per second. Not that that matters too much. We are using Blind Rage for further strength. Strength is a really important stat on Revenant. So is Duration. Unfortunately, we just couldn't really get much more out of that. And kind of the main reason for that is right here, Fleeting Expertise, to go ahead and boost back up our efficiency. I could totally see people using Transient Fortitude here. And if you aren't using this helmet, then you're using Roar. That's where you can absolutely dump stat range. It's just I can't dump stat range with this build because I took on the challenge of making a unique build not using roar. So this is what I found works the best for this specific build. If it seems fun to you, go for it. I would absolutely try this build because it is fun. You'll see in practice. Um, yeah, fleeting expertise is unfortunately what's really kicking our duration, and to help that, we have prime continuity. Mods to use if you're not using both of these is going to be further. I mean, you could use natural talent for further casting speed, or you can try to mod on some more duration and counteract that with range. Like you could use narrow minded and build some range back on. Uh, you could just use stretch, and you could just use augur secrets, not augur secrets. Sorry, augur message. So stretch is just going to be just a little bit of extra range, which is nice for the third if you want to have that. And then you can also use augur message, and this is going to boost the duration, which is going to help out with ability drain, or yeah, the ability drain of your fourth, and it's going to make your one last longer, your two last longer on the whole duration per that you have in between every single shot, and it's going to let your blind last longer. So duration's actually really important on this build. This is just the best I could do with using double augments, which I thought was unique and I thought was fun. I mean, everybody's really using Mesmer Shield, but Brawl Pact is kind of iffy because it is just a Serration bonus. But like with this build, as you guys saw, I mean, 425% damage is nice. I mean, who wouldn't take that? So that's what we're using, and that's what felt good for me. So what you guys may have noticed looking at this is we don't have much for energy. Yes, we have 135 efficiency and flow, but that is if you played Warframe and Steel Path, that's not really a lot. That's not going to be enough to kind of keep you going. We are outsourcing our energy to our arcane. We are using Arcane Universal Fallout again, as I find this to be a really fun arcane to use and to combat energy issues, as there are many helmets that you can use, one being Chirenka Pillar and the other one being Breach Surge, and I think you'd use Smite as well. I haven't messed around with that at all, but we're using Arcane Universal Fallout. So, let's show why. When I cast my 3, and I attack now, look, there are going to be radiation procs spread around. And now if we look at the ground, you can see we have 2 universal orbs. So that is how we are doing our energy. That is the whole reason why we have effectiveness on energy orbs. We have to create as many orbs as possible, and making sure that those orbs are giving you a big punch is super important because how much energy per second our fourth is using. So that is why we are using these shards. And that's why we're using the arcane that we're using. This just is what seemed the best for keeping up, like, the fourth. I'm like not even joking. Like, if you want to be in your fourth for longer, I think that Breach Surge or Chirenka Pillar is going to be your best option with Universal Fallout, because Universal Fallout literally cannot be beaten by its energy generation if you can get radiation procs on enemies. We are not getting that many radiation procs on this build, but like any at all is nice. Like 2 radiation statuses is a 12% chance of a universal orb. That's quite a lot. I mean, it'd be pretty improbable to kill 10 enemies and not get an orb. So that's pretty awesome when you think about it. Also, to counteract the fact that we don't have the best duration, we're using Multificiency. You will never lose your shields because you are always going to be invulnerable if you're playing them right. Good news, I'm garbage at this game, so sometimes I even go down because I forget to keep up my 2, literally on the easiest frame ever. It's just because it can be mind-numbing sometimes, but Multificiency's here for that extra 36% duration, so this build feels a little bit more comfortable with 131% duration. Let me see what I had next to talk about. That's like the synergies. I hope that made sense. But let's talk about our companion next. Because our companion's really important on this build as well for energy generation. I would absolutely build this if you could. We did talk about him in a past video, so if you guys already have him built, or I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming most people that are watching this video are quite seasoned Warframe players, so they probably have this companion built. But we are using Dethcube. Dethcube has an incredible precept, which should be right here on this build. Dethcube drops an energy orb after assisting in 10 kills. There are not a lot of weapons that are going to be too great for this in this game. If you want to have like a burglass and be using like what's the clone one? Duplex bond, that would work. But what works best for me personally is using a weapon called the Helstrum. This is like a grenade launcher. We'll show it off real quick. And we have this modded for gas, so that getting assists on kills is really easy. So go ahead and shoot. Like, look how many enemies we just hit there. I mean, like, we're affecting so many enemies. So that's what works best for me. And getting assists on enemies means we just had to have damaged them with Dethcube. So yeah, really easy to just get assist when you have the Helstrum. We're going to talk about the weapon build for that too, but let's just talk about this more. So what's going to be mandatory on this build is going to be energy generator and assault mode. Assault mode is going to keep them attacking. I'd probably just move Guardian the whole way down. I can't with mod capacity on this build. But I would move Guardian the whole way down as it's the least important thing on this build. We don't need to get our shields back because we're not going to be taking damage anyways. So making sure that assault generator and energy generator and assault mode are the most often procced abilities is going to be good. Reinforce spawn is not important on this, so if you want to take this off and put on duplex, go for it. This is just my general build, so we'll talk about more stuff on what I could do or what I would do. This is great. This just means your companions are going to be using their abilities more, which is super important because we need more energy. Synth is not doing anything on this because we are not using equilibrium. Like the health orbs aren't going to be doing anything. If you would like to use a purple shard for equilibrium, you absolutely can, and you can take advantage of synth deconstruct more. You might even have more success with that or modding equilibrium onto the build. And just picking up regular orbs in general. I mean, you guys might totally have a better time with that. Also, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that when you pick up a universal orb, equilibrium will just always work on those. Like, it will always give you the 110 energy, or like, yeah, I think that's how equilibrium works. I think it does that anyways. Am I bugging? Health pickups give 110 energy. Energy pickups give 110 health. But this should make energy orbs give 110 energy as well because it's a universal orb. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Not that that matters too much. It's 10%. But yeah, most important mods on here and what I would change. Let's talk about that one more time. Energy generator, assault mode. Make sure these are your 2 highest level precepts. By the way, if you guys don't know how precepts work, it's a modding hierarchy from like reading, like English reading, like so, left to right, 1 bar at a time, from top to bottom. So it can be important that energy generator is going to be ahead of everything, and that Guardian is going to be behind assault mode. I just can't do that right now. Vacuum doesn't matter because this is always active precept, but the precepts that are actually considered an ability are going to be assault mode, energy generator, and Guardian on this build. So definitely assault mode second and energy generator first. Okay, what I would change is taking off reinforce bond, using duplex bond on this build. I'm going to keep reinforce bond on it because I'm going to forget to change it. I could just do another precept. You know what? We will. Do this real quick. Duplex bond is going to give you clones. Their kills have a 50% chance of dropping energy orbs. There you go. That's awesome. That's going to be really good to have on here. And it's also just going to be spreading more statuses, which means more assists, which means your energy generator is going to be going off more. Synth doesn't matter on this build, like I said, so you don't need to use this unless you're using equilibrium or an equilibrium shard. And yeah, the rest of the build is, I'd say, pretty necessary. Momentous bond I would absolutely keep, and I would absolutely keep manifold bond just to keep up your companion as much as possible, and prime regen. These 3 are just for survivability of the companion. Same with calculated redirection, but you don't need this because that was for this to keep up the 60% fire rate. So you could even do field recharge speed. I'd probably do that. Probably would be the best play here. And let's see if we can maybe get this to switch around now. Yes, we can. Okay, so this is how I would mod it exactly. With synth being one you could switch off if you're not using equilibrium, I'm just gonna bring it anyways because why not? I honestly don't know what I would use different. Maybe calculated redirection here as well. That's gonna be a lot of. That's gonna be a whole forma extra, 2 forma extra. So I can't do that on this build right now, but that's what I would do. Helstrum. You have as many statuses as possible here for Guncio on other frames. If you don't know how Guncio works, is you're going to do more damage based off the statuses that are on an enemy. That's why I have it, but the only statuses that matter a lot here are going to be gas and electric, because this is chaining to other nearby enemies, so damaging them and getting assist is easier. And gas obviously creates an AoE field, so also important. Electric and gas, only thing that matter here. Matter of fact, if you didn't have the other stuff, it'd probably be proccing those more often, so I'd go for that. Firestorm, Bile Acceleration are going to be the... actually, sorry. Split Chamber and Firestorm are going to be the only things that matter here, and boosting your status chance high. Firestorm is going to make your actual projectiles have a larger range, like explosive range, because these are shooting like little miniature rockets at home. So increasing that so you get more gas procs on more enemies and get more assist is important. Okay, let's move on to our weapon, and let's talk about a really weird thing that Revenant can do. So, you guys might have noticed, like, why are we not using Reeve? Why do we still have the 1 on? Obviously, other than just the boosted damage, Reeve is really nice. It's a nice mobility tool when you're in your 4. But, if you subsume off Reeve, whatever helmet you have in the 3rd ability slot is castable when you're in your 4th. That is super important. So, if you are using a helmet to boost your 4th, I would absolutely replace the 3rd. Not that Reeve isn't incredible. It's just nice because then you can recast your ability while in your 4th. Let me show that off real quick. Every other ability is going to be grayed out other than Breach Surge, and I can cast it while in my 4th ability. It's amazing. But another weird thing is when you press an ability while in your 4th that is a helmet, you can shoot. So, I am using a battery weapon that can automatically reload for me because I can't reload while in my 4th. And I'm using it to spread more radiation procs. This build kind of sucks. You could actually just build this to be more radiation. This is the Tombfinger primary. You guys can see the parts that I used here. Instead of using the kill stream, I would use something that boosts status more than crit chance, because we don't need crit chance, we need status. So I would build this different. I would just take whatever gives more status, more than what gives damage and crit chance. Just status, that's all that matters. But it comes with radiation by default. You can boost that even more. Right now I'm just using the build that I use on Avara. The only thing that matters here is, like I said, radiation, multi-shot, status chance. You can also have it spread viral, which is nice. I would go blast radius for sure, and Pax charge for that battery mode. But let's show what that looks like when you're actually in combat, because it's really funky and it's really fun. Let's do it real quick. So there you go. Every single time I cast it, I can shoot my weapon. It's just really funny. It is super goofy, and there you can see our duplex spawn going off, going crazy. We got a bunch of clones going off. Awesome stuff. It is a really weird build. There's a lot of really strange synergies going on. We're going to move to our gameplay now, but we're going to show this off one more time. Only thing that matters on this build is going to be Firestorm, status chance, and radiation. You can do the viral if you want your gun to kill too. This is pretty good build for that, personally. This is what worked the best for me. Hammer Shot I know is pretty hard to get if you just want to do plus base status chance. Also, Rivens. Rivens are really cheap for this thing, and you can get really good ones. Because it has a really high, or decently high dispo. I would use Rifle Aptitude for status chance over... wow, I don't have a leveled up Rifle Aptitude. That is crazy. If you do not have Hammer Shot, I would just use Rifle Aptitude, and you should be fine. And yeah, so just multi-shot, explosive radius. Honestly, over Serration, I'd use Heavy Caliber. And let me show you guys why. So that's going to spread where the explosions are happening a little more. So you should be able to get more statuses spread out over a larger radius. So I would probably use that. But the sprint speed is really nice. That's going to increase your movement speed in your fourth. So maybe do keep this on. It's going to be up to you and whatever works best for you. But just something to talk about there. One more thing. Sorry. We are once again using the Okina Incarnon. That is going to be for the 20% sprint speed and the 30% movement speed. This is the best buff and best Incarnon for buffing your fourth. Keeping movement speed up in your fourth because you don't have access to Reeve anymore would be really important. And this crap is so slow if you don't have something to buff your movement speed. So this is what I'm using. As for my focus school, I'm using Xeneric just for more energy. So yeah, that's the build. That's everything talked about. You guys saw the companion, saw the weapon on the companion. You saw why I modded it the way I did. We talked about the ability to shoot your gun when you are in your fourth every single time you cast your third ability. We talked about my weapon of choice for that. We talked about the Okina for boosted movement speed. We talked about the build. We talked about the Archon Shards and how to use orange shards here, maybe even purple shard if you want to. And yeah, I don't think there's a secondary that's going to be best here unless you want to use a battery kit gun as well here, or just another battery weapon. But this is the build, and let's get to the gameplay. I do have a sad face next to Revenant, but I can now turn that frown upside down because this build is really, really strange and unique. It's fun. It's fun, I'll put it that way. It makes Revenant a fun frame. Revenant is not really the most exciting frame. I'm sorry. If you like Revenant, that's fine. It's just that's my personal opinion. Anybody can like what they like. Like me personally, I don't like Avara a lot, but I know some people love Avara. So yeah, that doesn't mean they're bad. Like Revenant's incredible. I just don't play them a lot. I'm going to use an energy pad here just to make this look a little bit better in gameplay so I can get the ball rolling off rip. But like I said, if you're not using preparation, you are going to have a little bit of a clunky time getting your energy up so you can start using your fourth. Let's go ahead and pop my 4, pop my 3. You guys can see we're shooting our guns here. If you watch my energy, we're getting good amounts of energy. I would turn your effect intensity all the way down on this build, or your game's gonna be looking like what mine's looking like, and it's utterly insane. It's so fun. We're also gonna show a little bit of combat, not in our fourth, with our 1 here. Get that spreading. That's my 3. Crazy stuff. We can go back in our fourth again and absolutely melt these guys. And we just got a bunch of energy back from that. 260 energy, as you guys can see at the bottom. You guys can absolutely use a secondary here. I'm not showcasing a secondary in this build because there's not one that particularly synergizes that immediately jumped out to me. But you can use a secondary that's stronger at killing, something like the dual toxicists if you really want to. I mean, guys, look at this energy. Energy generation is incredible. If you use Triranker Pillar, you might even get better energy generation, but it's not going to give you nearly as much damage and killing power with your fourth. Also, let's talk about the fourth a little bit. Your fourth does energy absorption. If you look up at the top, when you take damage, that's going to boost the damage that your fourth can do. So actually, against higher level enemies, because the exponential jump that enemy damage takes scales more than enemy health, you can actually do more damage with this at higher level. And if you pair that with Roar, your kill time at higher level is actually going to be like the exact same speed at lower level, which is really cool because like at that point you're not even using the base damage, you're using the boosted damage. So pretty cool synergy to talk about there. I mean, as you guys can see, this is just a fun build. We're using all of our abilities, some really weird synergies with being able to shoot my gun while in the third ability. I mean, while in the fourth ability because of the third ability. And it's actually really weird. Like, it will, like, remember how many times you casted your 3. So, like, look, I just casted my 3 twice, so I was able to shoot my gun twice. And, like, 3 times there. Oh, wait, look, I'm able to shoot even more. I don't really know what controls that. It's really interesting. I don't know. It's a buggy interaction in the first place. But I wanted to show it off because it's a fun one. And get some more enemies thralled here again. Just goofy stuff. Also, the Tombfinger is not a bad killer at all. It's a pretty decent weapon. So it's actually going to be killing people too while you're in your fourth. I really hope, Void, this makes you happy. I hope this build's interesting enough. I honestly can't think of anything that's gonna be stranger or more interesting than this or fun. I hope you like his fourth. If you hate his fourth, I'm sorry. I don't mean to disappoint. But I would absolutely maybe try something like Nourish. I know that's boring, but you can boost your first ability damage, like your little buddies. You can boost their damage with Nourish, kind of like Caliban's summons. So you could do some like buffing summon damage type of stuff with that, which could be interesting. I could show off a build for that in the future if you guys are interested. Just let me know in the comments. But this, in my opinion, is as interesting as it gets, build-wise on Revenant. We're gonna stay till Acolyte. Like I said, guys, I would definitely recommend checking out the ribbon market for the Tombfinger if you are in the market for it and you have the plat to spare. I think it could be a fun thing to roll this week if you guys haven't spent your Kuva already. Pretty much anything's gonna be slottable. I mean, because it's like decently high enough dispo. If you get 2 pluses and a minus, even better, because that stat's gonna be crazy high. I don't know if you guys saw my ribbon. It was like, what? 140 multi-shot, 260 damage, so definitely worth slotting over duration. Maybe not on this build, because we need the movement speed. Oh, and let's talk about our Acolyte kill time, guys. 4 actually kills really quick against Acolytes with the, like, bonus ability damage shards. I need to talk about how important those are on this build, especially against lower level enemies. That is doing a very large percentage of the killing. Like a lot of the damage boost. That works as far as I know, just like Roar does, buffing ability damage. So really strong. Like we have 45%. That's like a 45% Roar. So really good. Not that 45% Roar is really strong. It's just Roar in general is really strong. So you're effectively getting what Roar is doing for this build in particular, just by using Archon Shards. So it's not cringe. I know a lot of people don't really like using the same helmet every single time. I can't blame you. I agree with you. That's the whole thing we're aiming for on this channel. Unless it is literally the best in slot, like Nourish on Caliban. Nourish on Caliban is unfortunately like non-negotiable for me. Like if I'm not using it, it's just I'm playing him wrong. For me, not wrong for you guys. Like I said, no wrong way in playing Warframe. I've said that several times. And I think that I emphasize that on this channel with the goofy builds I show off, like that Pebble build on on Atlas. So proud of that video. I hope it continues to perform and more people find that too. I know not a lot of people like look up Atlas, so it's going to be kind of hard for that to continue doing well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. This has been the Revenant build. Void, once again, thank you for recommending this. I really appreciate when you guys recommend stuff. That just gives me something extra to do. Like I have like 5 videos planned right now, but these are really great because it just, I will pretty much always have something to do if you guys recommend it. So if this build interested you and you would like to see a goofy build like this on a frame you love, let me know. I would love to mess around with it. I love trying to find weird interactions, like that shooting in the 4th ability. Like that blows my mind. I found that out actually already when I was about to post the video. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm occasionally shooting my Vasto whenever I'm in my 4th. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm like, what about battery weapons? What about charge weapons? It doesn't work with charge weapons in particular that don't have self-release. Like, so I tried like the Kuva Brahma for spreading radiation. That didn't work because it doesn't release its shot itself. It can just be pulled back infinitely. So this is what worked the best for me because this is fully charged and it just automatically fires. So yeah, guys, please try this build. It's very fun. I hope it looked fun. The killing potential with your 4th is there, especially with Breach Surge. I'd even say that does about as good as Roar at lower levels. Obviously not at higher levels. But yeah, I mean, Mesmer Skin's incredible. The augments are incredible. Dance Macabre is actually viable to build with. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. You guys have a blessed Monday or whatever day of the week it is for you guys. Later, guys.